Thank you, and good afternoon, councillors. Good afternoon, members of the public, staff, and anyone else associated with this hui this afternoon. Good to see you all on this rather damp Tuesday. This winter. Right, apologies. Do we have any apologies, please? Christine, possibly for lateness, otherwise.
So, Councillor Rankin's just trying to get in, so she's just going to be a few minutes late.
Okay,
Yeah.
she's trying to get in. Okay,
Danny's on his way.
We've got a Councillor Loughlin, so could I move that the just elections of Councillor Rankin be accepted, please? Thank you, Councillor Park. Second by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carry. Any conflicts of interest pertaining to the items today? Councillor Loughlin.
Thank
Thank you very much, Councillor Loughlin. We will record that. Right, now we've got a little bit of a change around proceedings. Karen might help me through this, but agenda order items will be the main agenda. So as this, local government water services bill report from the supplementary agenda will be heard after item 5.5. I'll get the time of Karen. You got that right? Good. Okay, going through the confirmation of minutes. Item 4.1, meeting held on the 23rd of May 2024. Any clarification, Councillor Greenslade? You're present. Thank you, sorry about that. Yeah, cool. I didn't get that adjusted. Any other clarification of those minutes? No, can I move them, please, for those minutes with the conclusion of Councillor Greenslade, Councillor Loughlin, second by Councillor Shepherd. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carry. 4.2, confirmation of the minutes that were held on the 28th of May. Any clarification of those minutes? Matters arising. No. Okay, thank you very much. Right, can I move those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Colour. By Councillor Park. All those in favour, say aye. Against, carry. Right, next item up is the next lot of minutes, which was held on the 31st of May. Any points of clarification of those minutes? All the attendance is right on that one. Cool. Have a mover, please, for those minutes. Thank you, Councillor Shepherd, second by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carry. 4.4, confirmation of minutes that were held on the 11th of June 2024, the extraordinary meeting. No points of clarification. Thank you. Can I move? Thank you, Councillor Westman, seconded by Councillor Loughlin. Sorry. Councillor Loughlin, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carry. Okay, item number 5.1, hearing and deliberation of submissions received and adoption of traffic bylaw. We have Mr. Andrew Wilson. Good afternoon, Andrew.
After your worship and councillors. I will take the item as read. However, we'll just note that there was a late change to the attached document, wrong version attached. There are some definitions that were changed when we went out for consultation. Those are reflected in the new version that's been attached and will subsequently also need to just be reflected in the resolution that we make today. If you decide that those changes are the appropriate changes and want to continue with those as consulted on. And additionally, officers have had some discussion around the proposed change came through from Outdoor Access Commission. around the wording of that clause and the potential for an unforeseen consequence around commercial land and misinterpretation of that wording change. So probably look to propose that if elected members want to continue with that change, that we look to use the word except for in rurally zoned environment or something to that effect, just so that it's really clear that what we're talking about here is an exception for the rural environment rather than an exception for everything other than residential, to avoid the unforeseen consequence of people parking on the berm outside of a shop. Aside from that, in terms of the hearing and deliberating on the submissions received, there were 5 submitters. The majority of those submitters gave reference more things around traffic control and traffic management, traffic layouts, which are outside of the scope of the bylaw itself. They don't, road design and road planning is not part of that bylaw. I'm happy to have any questions, and there's no one here today to be heard to speak to their submission, so there's only what's been attached to the report for you to deliberate on.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Questions? Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, just on that point 13 again, the residential or sorry, excluding rural. And so my question was, my understanding anyway is that it's not very often applied, prosecuted anyway. And it's yeah, because if we've got volcanic soils, people park on the grass all over the place, and there will be good reasons, justifiable reasons why we don't want them in some places. Are we saying that there's no undesirable places to park on berms in rural areas, that we never, I mean, what is it? If we never apply it anyway, why do we need to change it? I mean, why would they submit it anyway? Are they people getting tickets in rural areas?
Through the chair, no, I don't believe anyone's received a ticket for parking in a rural area from Taupō District Council on the verge. The Outdoor Access Commission's role is purely to point out where there may be risks to the access through misinterpretation or very strict interpretation of a rule, and that's basically their role, is to advocate on behalf of people across New Zealand, making sure that they can still retain that access to those public spaces. So they're merely pointing out that, hey, there's a risk here that if someone got really happy-go-lucky with their interpretation of your bylaw, that they could really hammer people who are just trying to do the right thing and be off the rural road out of the way, and they're just trying to go down the track between 2 farms. That's a piece of dockland. It's more us just making sure that we don't fall into that space of having that issue arise, that unforeseen consequence arise, and making it tough for the community where they want to do the right thing and they want to be in the right place. Talking with the compliance team, they believe that this, in terms of this change around rural environment, was extremely low risk in regards to people parking inappropriately on the verge in the rural environment. They don't see it. It doesn't often happen. And it's often the only safe place for people to park is off the road, on the road edge in the rural environment. There aren't those parking spaces available to people, and there's not that hard curb there either. Oftentimes there's no water infrastructure underneath that we're worried about being damaged.
No, I'm just being devil's advocate. I mean, I'm not trying to make a problem, but I'm saying conceivably someone parks stupidly right by an intersection on the grass and rural. It would be very unlikely. That would. I'm just saying that changing the wording would rule out the possibility that. I'm not sure how you would.
Through the chair, I believe there's already a traffic offence for parking too close to an intersection or a junction. It's already a police matter. Yeah, within I believe it's within 2 meters of an intersection. I'd have to double check what the exact wording.
Oh no, yeah, I think
there's already an offence for people doing something like that.
Yeah, no, okay. Well,
Mr. Taylor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Worship. Just note that the version we have in front of us now is not that which has been made publicly available up to this meeting. Having read through the submissions, I don't believe the changes in this, which are primarily definitions under section 7 of the bylaw, has any impact either on consultation that's been undertaken or submitters who have presented In relation to paragraph 13, that's a common sense, pragmatic approach and makes perfect sense to me. So, this is any other conversation, I'm happy to move. Thank you very much, Councillor.
Councillor Greenslade.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. From time to time, Turangi does have a problem with heavy vehicles parking longer than an hour within the residential zone area. We have these bylaws. What's the next step for a citizen who is concerned about this?
Certainly. So through the chair, the next step for anyone who sees this behaviour happening is to basically make a service request. So you can either do that online or give council a call and say, hey, I'm seeing this behaviour happening. Because if we don't hear about it, we don't know about it, we can't enforce on it. But if people make us aware of it, then the team will be able to go out there and say, hey, that heavy vehicle is really likely to cause some damage there. Let's get that moved along. And oftentimes the first step is to ask the person to move the vehicle. And if it becomes a repeat problem, then we follow our various different enforcement mechanisms. So whether that be prosecution or an infringement notice, depending on which part of the bylaw or under which part of the act they've committed an infringement.
Thank you for that, Andrew. I have had contact on a number of occasions from people concerned about that. I'll pass that on to them. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Councillor Campbell.
It just again, relating to one of the submissions about wholesale cars, that they specific reference to there down that way. Well, the car, the informal car. I mean, we're not making any. Yeah, are they allowed to do that? Are they not? What's the deal? What is it?
Through the chair, yeah. According to the bylaw, they're not supposed to be parking the vehicles there. And from time to time, the compliance team will go down there and check what the scale of the problem is. If it's bad, if there are a large number of vehicles there taking up all of the car parks, causing a real nuisance, then they will basically look to get in contact with those people and tell them to move on. Do not park your vehicle there. However, if it's infrequent, the team basically uses a bit of discretion and says, look, it's not causing a huge nuisance if there's one vehicle there infrequently. When it becomes, as you say, a car yard, then the team tries to reach out to people to tell them, hey, actually, you're not supposed to be doing that. We do have a bylaw. We do have these rules to minimise this nuisance. But it's about, scale of the problem. When it's small, the team tries to basically just tap people on the shoulder and say, hey, you're doing the wrong thing. Rather than prosecuting or going that extra step.
Well, I've never seen less than half a dozen there, but I don't know why anyone would think it's a problem or complain or anyway. Do you get many? Does council receive many complaints about that area?
I don't know the exact answer in terms of number of complaints for that area. No, I don't.
No, okay. So if we're receiving hundreds of complaints,
I don't believe we're receiving hundreds of complaints.
No, I don't perceive it as a.
Yeah, when I talked to the compliance team, they did not flag that as an ongoing matter where people are complaining constantly about it. It was flagged by a small number of people, by the one submitter, and they've said that every now and then they will occasionally get someone who says, "Hey, is this right? Are you allowed to do this? Is this a real problem?" But nothing consistent.
Yeah, thank you. We're just bringing it back to the actual agenda item, which is a traffic bylaw review. I'd just like to second the amended resolution, please.
Any other discussion? I can be moved by Councillor Taylor, I believe. Rick? Right. Yep, seconded by Councillor Park. Suggested recommendations there. Amended recommendation. Yep. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Thank you, Andrew. Right, 5.2, funding and expenditure arrangements for the first quarter of 24-25. Aidan. And Nick. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Good.
So the Three Borders legislation changes we've been through, the government extended our time for the long-term plan. They gave us another 3 months up until the 30th of September. So our current long-term plan, the 2021 long-term plan, continues until the long-term plan is replaced. What that means is there's an expectation that we continue to provide the services set out in the 2021 long-term plan and maintain the service levels set out in the 2021 long-term plan. But we need a budget for that process for the next 3 months. The annual plan budget ceases on the 30th of June, and the new budget will be set through the long-term plan process. So what we've put forward is a set of criteria that allows us to continue to deliver on the 2021 long-term plan up until you make decisions on the next long-term plan. And I guess we're highlighting the key risk is we don't want to preempt or prejudice your ability to make decisions through the next long-term plan. You have the ability to make decisions on all of council services, all our budgets, and our service level provision. So you've got quite broad powers there. And we don't want to paint you into a corner where things are already locked in place and you can't make those decisions. So that's what our criteria are about. They're about sticking to within the budgets we proposed, but not proceeding with particular projects that are a service level proposal or increase that you have yet to make a decision on.
Mr. Pack.
Yes, thank you. And I actually had to read this agenda item twice because the second time I read it, it actually answered the question that I mentioned to the CE that I was going to ask earlier. I think one thing we've really got to be mindful of is what we're required to do by law as well in regards to the health and safety of our people, what qualities of water and all that sort of thing. So we were stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place again. Thank you to Wellington. And what we're doing. So I think it's only fair that we give staff the surety that we continue as we go on before we hit a 9-month financial year at the end of September.
And part of that comes down to the capital program. We've got projects in place to maintain our service levels. Obviously, we've got renewals and maintenance programs in place that are sensible to make sure the assets run and function, plus also investment required to meet regulatory hurdles, many of which are already underway and need to continue. So Appendix 1 is really just for transparency, our best effort to identify the major projects that we expect to continue, with the hope that you would highlight any that you are comfortable with us continuing.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Worship. I don't want to put you on the spot, but the way the spreadsheet or the table reads on a number of these items, it's worded and would like to start. The implication of that is it's optional, the way it reads. So my question is, given that we have consulted on a number of issues and the expectation is that service delivery will continue at that consulted level, if for these items we do not proceed with them, are we facing a service delivery failure or reduction, which would then require us to consult? And also the second part of this is just provide some assurance that none of this is going to compromise the consultation we're currently undertaking in the long-term plan. So it's a two-part question, yeah?
I'll jump in. Probably 3 key projects, certainly from my reading, looking at that table that you might have some concerns about given some of the description that's sitting in there. The first of those is around the apron for the airport. What's not sitting in there is the story from a funding perspective. So that's a joint venture operation where the apron extension is being funded partly by us and partly by the government through the MOT. We've got a requirement from a timing perspective around that funding. It's got to be sorted by January 2025. To enable that to happen, we have to start the design work within this first quarter. So you'll see there's about 172,000 there for the apron, and that's the design work. So that's about meeting that January 2025 deadline, which is tied to the funding. The other two are on the next page. We've got and they're both related to stormwater. We've got the Hawaii Reserve Detention Pond, and then just below that, the mobile station improvement device. Again, you'll see that the spend in the first quarter is estimated to be about $100,000. That's about design work. So this is not prejudging your ability to make a decision once you get into the LTP deliberations about those two projects. Ultimately, we know they'll need to be done because they're linked to dealing with stormwater quality, and we've got a consent around our stormwater discharges. What you might want to do through the LTP deliberations is have a discussion about the timing of delivery of those. Now, the fact that we've done the design work in the first quarter doesn't prejudice your decisions around the timing of the ultimate delivery of the project. If you decide to carry on and deliver it in year one, then we're ready to go. If you decide to delay it by a year or two, then you've got the ability to do that as well. So those were the three key projects where I could see that there was some ambiguity around the language, but more than happy to talk about other projects in there.
Thank you for that. My concern was that there was that ambiguity around the language, but if you're assuring us in terms of the decision we need to make, that it's not a we would like to, but we need to, that's a significant difference. Yeah.
This is about, and we see it in the criteria that from an officer's perspective, this is about prudent decision making as a council that's got requirements in terms of one, delivering services, but also delivering them in a way that continues to meet your resource consent requirements, particularly in that stormwater situation. And then obviously for the apron, that's about funding.
Councillor Lachlan.
Maybe if nobody's got any questions.
Campbell.
I was interested in the do nothing closing down for 3 months option. Do you know if it's been done before by anyone? Or?
No, and the clear expectation is that we're expected to continue. The government's extended the long-term plan, and we're really expected to continue.
So that literally means staff go home and have a 3-month holiday. Was that what you?
Which is why it's been discounted as not a practical option.
Well, people appreciate council more than if we get shut down. Anyway, no, okay.
I think a lot of our services are regulatory required, so I think we all like drinking water and wastewater and.
I don't
want to stop flashing the loo.
Right. Well done, Nathan. And Nick. Yes, I've lost track. Who moved it? You moved. Councillor Leonard second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carry. Thank you, gentlemen. Right, moving on. We have something we've done that. 5.3 Civic Administration Building Project transfer budget transfer. Jeanette Painga
And Scott.
and Scott. Good afternoon, team. Welcome. Right, what have you got, Jeanette?
So this paper is about bringing forward some budget from the long-term plan. You will have noticed on the previous item that the Civic Administration Building was one of the ones on the list to continue working because we've got contractual obligations there. So I take the paper as read. There's just one small typo. The total budget of the Civic Administration Building is 5.95 million, not the 5.928 that is in the paper. That was my error. I'm happy to answer any questions. We've basically got, Scott is probably, we've just got some contractual payments that we have to make this week. So we need the money to do that. So that's the reason for the paper.
Okay, thanks, Jeanette. Scotty, what are we paying for?
There's a number of invoices that come in for this month of June. And as per our LTP, we have to allocate the funding. So if you pay for the following month into next month into July, it still would need to be captured in this year. The principal ones are for Watson Hughes for the MCHF, which is a master contractor hard fit out, and also for 240 Tower as well. So then there's some other ones for which is part of the contract as well for the fit out. All it is, it's a timing thing. So as we entered, as you may recall, back in December, we entered into an agreement where we went for a sole contractor to create some efficiencies, with being Watson Hughes being that sole contractor. And so because of that, some of the timings of these payments are actually being brought forward because of those efficiencies that have been created. Yeah, so when it was originally planned, these payments would have been slightly later in the year, but they're being brought forward. So it's not a changing of the amount of the budget, it's just bringing a small portion forward.
So your worship, it's actually a good news story because the project's on track and we need to spend the money early.
Councillor Bark.
Yeah, thank you. Can I just ask just around the sort of wording of this? Like usually when items like this come to us, it's but unbudgeted expenditure, not that we're bringing forward money we haven't rated for yet. And it is under the DE's financial delegations, but it doesn't state that it's unbudgeted. I'm just wondering that there could be ambiguity. It could be my misinterpretation, but I'm just trying to work him out in my own mind that it's not a straightforward unbudgeted expenditure.
No, so we're not seeking unbudgeted expenditure. We're seeking to move it for one financial year and bring it forward. My delegation is that I can sign off what's in the annual plan. And because that relates to this financial year, I don't have the delegation to sign that off. So once subject to council being happy today, if we bring it forward a financial year, then it's within my delegation to sign. That's a timing issue.
So just through the chair, being that that's an OPEX cost, does that help alter our rate increase for the next financial year in any way? But I know it's dropping the bucket in the big.
It's a capital cost, it's not an
Oh,
OPEX cost.
right. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Very good. Right. Hey, I suppose, folks. Yeah. Yeah, as long as you guys are comfortable that, you know, the contracts are in place and that,
Absolutely,
you know, we're going to get the services provided and the goods.
absolutely.
Happy to approve it. You happy to move it? Councillor Westerman's happy to move it. Councillor Lachlan happy to. Oh,
No, it's got a
conflict.
conflict.
Councillor Greenflake. I'm done.
Vote my non-participation.
Just one question.
Yes, Councillor Williamson.
Thank you. In the background, you've got the obviously you have to pay at least one. Money else will be accounted for the 2023-24 financial year. We're still looking into June financial year or September now. For county purposes.
Through the chair, our financial year ends on the 30th of June.
So we'll be paid this week as well.
The majority of that money will be paid tomorrow, yes.
Cool. Send your receipt. Okay, sorry. Right. I lost track again. Being moved by Councillor Westman and seconded by Councillor Greenslade. Thank you, guys. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
As against, carried. 1.4, adoption of the solid waste bylaw. We have Mr. Andrew Wilson. Good afternoon, Andrew, again.
Your worship and councillors. So the item in front of you is about the adoption of the solid waste bylaw. That was heard and deliberated on by the ad hoc committee for bylaws, and there were no further changes aside from that one change that was recommended as a result of consultation, which was a slight tweak to that wording around events. Instead of saying basically, yeah, you should do some waste minimisation, we just say a bit more proactive language to say, what steps are you going to take to minimise waste? Just slightly more proactive. Lets those event organisers know that, hey, we'd like to see what you're actually going to do, as opposed to being a bit more passive about it. Doesn't have any massive substantive implications for their work. They can still turn to us and say, our event doesn't have the ability to do much. We've only got these couple of steps over here, so sorry, that's just the nature of our event. And then we can help the team, the solid waste team, would then help try and explore options for them. Aside from that, there's not much else of note in terms of this bylaw, but just to reiterate, this particular bylaw will likely need to be reviewed if through the long-term plan you decide on a different approach to curbside collection. So we may be having a conversation about a solid waste bylaw again at a later date as a result of LTP. So this bylaw really acts as either it retains the status quo and acts as that stopgap measure between now and whatever the end result is of LTP process. And if that changes, then we will have to have a look at that bylaw.
Thanks, Andrew. Makes sense. Any questions, Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, Chair, just, if we don't adopt this bylaw, does that mean the existing bylaw just carries on through?
The existing bylaw is at the end of its life. They're required to be reviewed every 10 years, well, 5 years first and then 10 years subsequently. And this particular bylaw is at the end of that 10-year life. It's been in place for some time, and it basically must be reviewed after that 10-year period is up. It must be basically reviewed or replaced or consciously revoked within 2 years of that end period. And we're basically outside of that period. We're getting outside of that we're getting towards the end of that 2-year period. So we need to make a decision now. If you don't have this bylaw in place, one of the things that you do compromise is the licensing regime for solid waste contractors. So that's including the existing contractor for council services, but also the other contractors that operate in the commercial industrial space, and across a range of other things. That regulates the standards that they're held to, and including regulates their behaviour in terms of what they can and can't dispose of and where they must dispose of it. So there's a major risk of not having a bylaw in place. And if we don't have a bylaw, this one will lapse, and there will be a gap of some months where you would have no coverage from a bylaw, and those licenses potentially would be, there's a legal question there around if those licenses are still valid, or the council have any ability to prosecute or take enforcement action against people who are not doing the right thing.
Also, I mean, we may be making further amendments after the long-term plan, so that's
correct.
Yeah.
So you would have a gap if nothing was adopted today. You'd have a gap of, I believe it's 7 months. There may not be a new system. The new system may not be decided on in the exact implementation of that system, and then a new bylaw drafted in that time frame. This provides that stopgap mechanism between now and the eventual rollout, which would potentially, if there was a new curbside collection service, that would be in year 2 of LTP. So that's some time away. So this makes sure that we have a system in place now and can continue business as usual in the waste space.
And if it gets amended further down the line, public consultations?
Correct.
The whole.
So if there was, unless there was only minor like editorial changes, council has powers to make those via resolution. But if you're making substantive changes that have implications on people, then likely we will need to reconsult with the community on a new bylaw. But that will entirely depend on the nature of those changes. They may not, there may not be a need for substantive changes to the bylaw to accommodate a new system. But all I flagged here is that effectively never say never in regards to those changes that may be required to support that system.
Councillor Greenslade.
I'm just reiterating what Andrew has said to us. I was on the ad hoc committee, and this bylaw in no way compromises the long-term plan consultation, anything to do with what we're doing. This is keeping the business going.
Thank you. Right, no other questions of Andrew. Could I have a mover, please, on the solid waste bylaw? Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Second by Councillor Greenslade. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Andrew. 5.5, approval of submission to the Resource Management Freshwater and Other Matters Bill amendments. Or Erin. Good. Good afternoon, Erin.
Okay. Back with another submission. This time it's the Resource Management Freshwater and Other Matters Amendment Bill. I'll take the paper as read. At the beginning of the paper, I've outlined what the proposed changes are. A lot of it relates to regional council responsibility, such as winter stock grazing and consenting pathways for coal mining. Our submissions focused on 2 areas that are potentially impacting District Council. First one is we support the 3-year suspension for identifying new SNAs in our district plan. The government is actually amending the National Policy Statement for Indigenous Biodiversity, so it makes sense that we do just delay identifying new ones into our plan. The existing SNAs will remain in place, so that's still a layer of protection in our district plan. Our second point of our submission is about the government's proposing to exclude Te Mana o Te Wai hierarchy of obligations for resource consenting So we've got some concern about that and the potential impact on freshwater management. We've made some really good progress in our freshwater management space. Our freshwater, our free waters manager has said it's at the heart of everything that we do. We don't want this to be undermined. So we believe the hierarchy should remain integral to decision-making processes. And then lastly, we've asked the government to slow down on resource management reform. We've said this in a previous submission as well. We'd just like to take a more considered approach to some of these changes, to do some better engagement with local authorities and proper analysis of the potential impact of some of these changes. It's feeling like there's a lot of change coming through at quite a fast pace, and even with the submission, it's really quite tight turnarounds for when we have to get our submissions in. That's how we've sort of summarised our submissions, just request to slow down. So yeah, seeking approval on the submission.
Thank you very much, Erin. Any questions of Erin? Councillor Taylor?
More comment, Your Worship. Thanks that I've read the proposed submission and thank the team for preparing it. My only comment would be around conclusion 6.2, that we're a little bit more forceful around the pace of change and the legislative agenda that's being pushed through. This would be the third or fourth time where short-dated submissions have been called for. And from my perspective, it calls into question the genuineness of any consultation or hearings process being run through parliamentary select committees. If they call for submissions, close it a week later, and then march on. So I just wonder whether we need to beat that a little bit. It's not just related to this, it's the others that have gone before, and I dare say more to come. So I don't have any suggested wording, but I'm sure we can just change the language a little bit more forcefully.
Mr. Greenslade?
Thank you, Erin. 3.2. I just have a concern about talking about what other councils have done. I do think we should stick to what we do and our feeling and commenting on what other people do, which are outside of our areas, is sort of the comment I'd like to make. Have we got any SNAs underway at present?
Not at present. The last draft SNAs were done around 2021 or pre-COVID.
Yeah.
They weren't finalised because there were changes happening in the in that space with the National Policy Statement. So the government, even the previous government, said that they plan to amend some of those SNA provisions. So nothing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Erin. Okay, everyone happy? Councillor Westerman?
I know that we don't want to be heard at this mission. Just wondering about the logic behind that.
Yeah, so my understanding is we normally ask to be heard when it's of particular significance to our district, and it's a matter that we're very concerned about. This one, the amendment bill, is largely relating to regional council matters, except for these, two items that we've touched on. Also, given the number of submissions we're doing at the moment, it's seen as Taupō and New Zealand representing councils in that space and presenting. What happened with the fast track consenting bill is they ended up getting something in the area of 2,700 submissions, and out of that, 1,500, I think, wanted to be heard. So they did a ballot system, and then they had, I think it was 500 groups and then 500 individuals were allowed to be heard. So, so yeah, if it's a matter of particular significance, I think we'd probably ask to be heard, but in this case, I think we feel comfortable that our sector leads will present our views.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Williamson.
3.2, talk about the SNAs and identification by councils has been very consistent. Piecemeal is probably quite true, but probably sounds a bit harsh because there's been some work done with Cara Scott years ago by communicating with landowners. So, the best ability.
Yes, I think we've done a good job too, but it was more about around the country. I think it was fairly inconsistent how it was done, and that was part of the controversy behind them. The National Policy Statement, since it's come into place, it's got a better framework for that, but there's still a lot of controversy around where they're located. So often there's large tracts of rural land identified at the SNA, and a lot of land return and treaty settlement. In some cases up north, for example, 100% of a land block might be an SNA. So it really limits what you can do in terms of use and development of that land. So I think it's best to wait for the government to amend or to review the national policy statement.
Very good. Thank you, Aaron. Get that submission down there.
Your worship.
Sorry. Happy to move. Thank you very much, Councillor Lachlan. Davis, together, please.
I just wanted to see the resolution on the screen because we've asked for some editing to be done. So if we can change that to approve the submission as agreed today or as edited. Otherwise, we just approve what's written on the agenda item. That's what that says.
Everyone agrees with your amendments to that? Anyway, okay, all right, as amended, you've got that, Karen? Then Councillor Taylor made some suggestions. Are you happy with those? You happy just to amend it slightly as per
It's due Friday, so I'll make that amendment. So.
cool. Thank you very much. You happy to second, will you? No, second, yeah. Councillor Lachlan, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, Karen. No. Carry. Oh, God. Are you there? Right. So we'll go to supplementary now. Supplementary agenda item as per the previously discussed 5.7. And we have Joanne Walton and Peter. Good afternoon,
Tony.
Peter, Tony. Sorry, Anthony.
Or the Karen.
Right, I got Joey right. All right, that's the main one. Right, Tony.
And yet another submission.
Yeah.
We're definitely on a roll. Look at approval. We've been talking to you recently around this particular submission on local government bracket, water services preliminary arrangements bracket, bill. I'll take the paper as read, and you'll see there, obviously, we've included all of the feedback from you. We've also had conversations, looked at what Taupō are doing, and CoLab in Waikato. So it's again, that was a timeline. We're really just bringing the paper to you for approval. Happy to take any questions.
Very good. Any questions of Tony and Joanne? Councillor Greenslade.
Thank you for putting those amendments in there, and it's actually a fantastic submission. Beautifully written, well crafted, excellent.
Well done. Who did that? You, Joan? Of course. Well done. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? All right. Suggested resolution. Thank you, Councillor Park. Have a seconder, please. Councillor Shepherd. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you, team. All right, moving on. We have item number 5.6, Taupō District Council performance report for May 2024.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. I just want to acknowledge the work that the GMs and their teams have done in the summaries this month. When I was reflecting on it last night ahead of this meeting, I just thought I'd pull out a couple of the awards that have occurred highlighted in this report and since then. The Airport Terminal Redevelopment Project has won silver in the 2024 New Zealand Commercial Projects Awards that was identified in the report. Te Kapua Papa Tākaro is the joint winner of the Te Karanga o Te Tui Supreme Award at the recent New Zealand Institute of Landscape Architects. Te Kapua Papa Tākaro also won an award for excellence in the Play Space of the Year category of the 2024 Recreation Aotearoa Parks Award. And Waiora House recently picked up the Taituara Excellence and Collaborating for Results Award, and also just our swim school too. Very proud of the work that they've done. Our swim school was awarded a platinum standard by Swimming New Zealand and Recreation Aotearoa too. So, on reflection on the report, I thought it was worth highlighting some of those achievements across the team. So from this,
right,
done.
Obviously GMs are available to answer any of the first part of the report. Then we can move into the second, which is the financials.
Okay, any questions of Julie? No, and obviously well done on those awards. I think in years' time people are going to look back and think we've been a busy district over the last 2 or 3 years by doing those capital projects and completing them and award winning, which is great. So thank you to everyone that's been involved. All right, Jeanette, we got any money? Oh, sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'll take the financial summary as read. Council was maintaining a strong operating surplus to May with 1 month left to go, so we're in great shape in terms of the financials. There have been no further unapproved changes, but approved changes to the forecast since the meeting. And capital has had a strong insurgence this month with $8 million spent in May to get us much closer to our annual plan budget of 58.2 with 54.9 total spend year to date. Is there any questions on the financials?
Thanks, Aaron. Questions? Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, just a trivial question, like, well, not so trivial. AC Bars and Tūtapō revenue ahead of forecast by 173K, well, due to timing. No, I'm just interested in, I mean, we set this fee for something like entry. I mean, that's probably based on an assumed number of visits, because you don't know how many. But then it gets to the end of the year, so what do you mean ahead of forecast? That means we made more than we expected. That's what we're saying there, yeah.
That's correct, yeah. So people buy their memberships for a year. It's not always matching to our financial year. So there's distortions you pay up front.
Yeah. No, I'm just interested in how that's taken into account and say the following year's setting entry fees for something like pools, because are we basing it on previous year's input, or is it
Yeah, previous year's numbers would come into the calculation. So there's multiple factors that would come into it, including the estimated volumes, the costs that are expected in a particular area. So any overflow from previous years would flow into.
Through the chair as well, our budget for this type of revenue is divided by 12. And so you'll probably find that it comes back a bit in June due to school holidays. I think we're in May. I don't have a school child anymore, but we tend to get uplifts every time there's a school holiday. And also the swim school, they invoice for their programs in advance at the end of the term for the next term. And so that revenue will also be possibly distorting that number.
I think it represents an incredible facility too, and a lot of increase in population. I don't know if we've got the census yet, but you know, there's lots of new families I see going up to AC Bars and all that sort of thing. It's got a good name, great name, cleanliness and good, you know, quality staff and all that sort of thing. So I think we're just doing a fine job with the product, and so hence the increase.
I think it's one of the biggest underutilized, underappreciated assets around here, actually, myself.
Anything else, Aaron?
No, probably just draw attention to the Treasury report, which was absent from the circulated material. We haven't, obviously we can't publish it now, but we've run the checks, and I just wanted to report that we are compliant to the same level that we were in the previous month, with the only exception being the investment maturity, which is about the timing of our investments and when they fall due, which is a deliberate method to be able to kind of facilitate some capital purchase that's coming up in the next month or two.
So passed a resolution about being inconsistent on that particular aspect of the policy. So it's
very good. Okay, thank you, guys. Good news, Aaron. I like it when you bring good news like that. It's good running a good ship. Thank you. Right, further. And now.
Kia ora tātou. We find ourselves at the end of the financial year.
very close. So it's exciting to report. As Jeanette just said, we're very near, well, and we're not close to our overall target, but we're close to that $57 million mark. So it's too soon to say exactly where we'll land in the next week, but I'm excited to say that that's a good number, if all things considered. As you've seen from the financial report, there's limited changes this month. I'll take the report as read. Two I'd like to talk about in particular. The first is Northern Access investigation. Time is now green as the stage 1 report is complete and the stage 2 report's also complete. You would have heard a little more about Project Quantum Tech 1. Time is now from amber to red with an adjustment for the go live dates. There were some data migration issues, and the TAA and financial assets modules have been complete. What I would also like to report is I know a number of people have been keenly awaiting the completion of the Wairākei roundabout, which is almost done, ending some final adjustments to the unison component. And also the Whangamata road improvements, which is on the cusp of going to tender, which is obviously a multi-year project, but has some exciting improvements to that part of our busy road. I have brought Elijah along today because he looks after particularly 3 of our largest drinking water standards upgrades in our portfolio that we report to you monthly. And I know there have been a number of questions previously on, I guess, the lag time, specifically regarding those projects, but also some of the good news that he wants to share with you around, you know, I guess the completion of some of the piling and what's expected over the next couple of months. We hope the weather's not quite like this.
Thank you, Neil. Good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, I'm going to update you all on 4 of the water treatment plant upgrade projects, specifically Kinloch, Amori, Waichuoka and Hātepe. So starting with Kinloch, we've currently got 2 work fronts going up on site. So we've got the tank farm piling, as Peniel alluded to, that's all complete, which is really good. And currently we've got builders constructing the foundation beams and the concrete that ties and battlefield. In the second building front, we've actually got the building pilings portion starting to be piled currently, hopefully in the rain maybe, but we'll see. In terms of what we're reporting on in the portfolio update, so you've probably all seen that the budget is red. This is obviously pending the LTP outcome. In terms of the time, a few months ago we changed back to green. While we've had some significant delays here, we're not trying to hide that fact. After talking with our sponsor, the contractor has submitted an extension of time and re-baseline those projects to be more realistic. So essentially, Kinloch, we have a new completion date of late August 2025, and that's essentially locked in stone. If we go past that date, the contractor will start paying money to TDC. So we've got some really good tangible measures there to try and keep that project on track, which is great. Moving on to Mori, again, the site has been cleared and we've had some initial enabling works undertaken to sort of prep for the works here. We're expecting civil works to start in late July, and that will sort of commence with a new road entrance and the foundation works for the structure. Again, the budget is still red because we're pending the outcome of the LTP, because obviously we need to fund these projects. They are going to go into the next LTP. And again, the time has been recast. Got a new completion date of May 2025. Moving on to Motuopa, these are probably some of the updates that we've touched on previously, but it's worthwhile talking to some of the challenges we've had. The original site on the same location, the current water treatment plant, is really close to the lake, and the soil is extremely challenging. Essentially, if we get a big earthquake, the whole site will just crack into the lake. So the project made a conscious decision to look at alternative sites there and to try and save some money and to make it a lot more buildable. As such, we've moved it to be co-located nearby the wastewater treatment plant site, and that's currently owned by TDC, and it's a lot better ground, which is a really positive outcome. We're currently, in terms of where we're at with that project, we're just working on the design of that with the contractor. And then moving to the last one, which is Hātepe. So Hātepe, again, we've probably talked about this previously, but it's just worth going over it. This has had some really significant challenges with land acquisition. And I know when we went to the LTP engagement session there a few weeks ago, it was quite good to catch up with the residents there to talk about some of the challenges. It's extremely important community, and they're really supportive of it. So the original site that TDC did identify, they had fallen through because of essentially the landowner wasn't prepared to work with us. And TDC don't have much land in that area. I know in terms of the 2G, the main trustee, they were really supportive of the project, and they sort of tried to look for some land for us, but sadly we couldn't find any. So as such, about a year or just about 10 months ago, we submitted a DOC concession application for the Hinimaya Scenic Reserve. So essentially that's a concession and lease application to try and source some land there. So that's currently being processed. It took a lot of time to be even looked at, but now it's currently being processed again, supported by the residents in Hapu, and we expect that to go publicly notified in the next few months. Yeah.
It's across the road, is it?
Correct. It's just as you come into town on the left.
Yeah.
So quite a lot of that land is quite low ecological value. So we had an ecological assessment, picked an area that was, wasn't going to impact on any of the ecological values of the area. It should tick all the boxes for concession. Cool. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Elijah. Questions? Councillor Greenslade.
Oh, thanks. I just wanted to commend you on the amount of work that you put into that. Both Mature and Hatepi has been. And I was at the pop-up event and I did hear the appreciation of what you've done. And it's the whole thing about partnership and working with people and listening to them, which we're often criticised for not doing. And when you're actually in the room and you hear those conversations taking place, that's when the rubber hits the road, really. And it is working, and it's working very well. Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Greenslade. Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, just on the Waireki roundabout, I only flicked through there once. Did I notice there was grassy in the central island? Is it grass?
Plantings.
Oh, okay, because I thought that last time I think I asked about this ages ago, it was set for concrete, which was a little bit bland, but someone changed their mind, I think, perhaps for the better, but just a little bit more cost and maintenance. So, but yeah.
Through the chair, I think Fraser was very excited to go with an alternative.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. Landscape. And it looks like it's finished to me. No cones. All the cones are gone last night.
We put them into a little wardrobe.
Oh, okay. Councillor Greenslade.
Thank you, Worship. Peniel, I wanted to be a pain in the neck about the Turangi Street Revitalisation Project. I see there's money around the place, and I'm wondering if any of it will be able to go to TA and Nene Street and complete that project. It's the old story, isn't it? You do the job 95% fantastically, and the tiny little bit that you don't do, everybody points the finger at. And I really don't want the finger being pointed at us, because there's a tiny little bit of the work that we haven't done. It'd be so nice to actually just complete and finish what we said we were going to do.
Through the chair, thank you. And I know Peter Van Niekerk's been working very closely with Roger Stokes and the transport team to identify any possibility of that. I don't have any updates for you at the minute, but I know it is a priority.
Thanks, Peter.
Very good. Thank you, Elijah. Thank you, Peniel. Good work. Anyway, what's next? Billy?
Engagement report.
Management report. Who does that?
I just received. So I've got no further comments.
No,
unless there's any
further
further questions.
Questions or queries on the CEO? No. Very good. Okay, thank you very much for that report. Could I have a move, please? That report to accept. Councillor Greenslade, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. 5.7, council engagements. July 2024 appointments and training and conference opportunities. Invite Karen Watts to the floor, please.
Thank you, Dora. So there's just a few additions of long-term plan engagements that are either before or after your meetings next week. So after the Mangakino-Pouakani representative group meeting, there is another long-term plan engagement following it. And for the Taupō East Rural representative group, note that anyone attending should be there at 9:45. and that there is a long-term plan engagement session after it. And ahead of the Kinlock meeting that afternoon, there's engagement from you. That is it.
Very good. Karen, any queries of Karen? Any changes of the dates? No.
Sorry, just through the
Councillor
chair, just
Stark?
to clarify with the Mangakino, after the representative group meeting, there's going to be a LTP pop-up, is that correct?
That's right.
In Mangakino. I just apologies for that because we've got to get back to risk and assurance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Could I have a mover, please, for those dates? Accepted. Thank you, Councillor Westerman. Seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. No. Okay. That is it. We will finish off with the key. Trying to get it here. First. Any Terito, Kiawate, Errata. Kiawate, Errata. Thank you very much.